Hi there, it's Phoebe from Quilted Pig. Today we're going to take a look at a simple strippy quilt, and this could be your first quilt. It's also a great idea for a simple quilt that you can give away to a baby or a child. You can see it's pretty simple, just little stripes and strips and easy to do. So let's take a look at what we've got going on here.
So what this quilt is made of is it has 6.5-inch strips of a focal fabric that has grapes on it. They're purple and green. And then it has 3-inch strips of a kind of a mottled, very small print orange fabric. And then these started out as 1.5-inch strips of this purple solid fabric. Now, this is really easy to make and we can work on it together. I'm going to show you today is how to get started cutting. By making this quilt with me over the next few weeks, you'll learn how to do some cutting, you'll learn how to get some accurate piecing, and then you'll also learn some basic quilting. So let's get started. I'm going to fold this away and show you the fabric that I chose for mine. I needed a focal print, so I chose this mouse fabric. It has nice, big, pretty colors and has a lot going on, but because it's such a big scale, it would be difficult to cut this up and use it in blocks. So it's useful for something, a quilt like this. Then instead of a smaller print and a solid, I chose to do two sort of solids. They're both kind of a marbleized print. So I chose yellow and I chose a navy blue to go with the backgrounds on the mice. So let's get started cutting. Now, for each of these, you'll need about a yard of the novelty print, and I'll go ahead and put these amounts in the bottom as well, in the description below. But you'll need about a yard of the novelty print, and then you'll need a half yard of the yellow and the blue. Now, through the magic of the internet, I've actually already cut a few strips of this, so you're not going to get to see all of them. But what I've done to prepare for today is I washed the fabric. It's especially important on blue and red. I would hate for this blue to bleed away onto this yellow the first time it gets washed. So then I ironed the fabric, and if you need to, if you feel like the fabric might have a lot of stretch in it, go ahead and starch it while you're ironing it. Now I have cut, these are set up for cutting, with the fabric is how we're going to cut these, and that can tend to be stretchy, so that's another reason to possibly do starch if you feel like you need to. The width of the fabric has more stretch than the length of the fabric. So this is how it comes off the bolt. This is called the folded edge, and then this is the selvage, and so it's folded in half. So let's get started with cutting a strip. We'll go ahead, I've got the blue here, so we'll just start with the blue. Now the blue is going to be a 3-inch strip. And I will tell you, I'm going to tilt my ruler this way because it glares really heavy the other way. My ruler, the brand that I like, has 1.5 inches, so it has a 1/2 inch line on this side, and then it also has an inch line on this side. So you can use it either direction. You just have to remember and be mindful of which direction that you're going. So to get started, let's take a look at our blue fabric. Now I've got it folded here, and I will line up the fold with a grid line on my mat and let that be kind of our guide to get started. Now look at this. There is a part where it is not cut straight. It's not, I can actually see it up close that it's not on the grain of the fabric either, but it's not straight for sure. So what we're going to do is give ourselves a clean cut so that when we start cutting our strips, it's clean. So what I will do, and this is the 1/2 inch line, I will line up, which isn't necessary, it's just, again, I'm reminding myself so that I can be mindful of that. Line up as close as I can. It looks like I might need to scoot it over just a little bit more. I don't want to waste fabric, but I do want to make sure that I get a good clean cut. I'm going to scoot that over just a little bit, and then I will use my ruler to line that up. Now I'm left-handed, so we're gonna cut like a left-handed person would today. I can show you right-handed cutting later if that's something that everybody wants to see. So I've got my blade exposed, and this is a new blade. It's nice and sharp, and we will just line that ruler up, make sure it matches at the top and at the bottom. I point that opposite, but anyway, you understand. Start cutting. And I'm going to cut just a little way, and see I'm using my hand to hold the ruler down, and then I'll move my hand forward and move my hand forward. So you can see definitely that that was not cut straight originally. This being one end of it and this being the other end. So now we've straightened that up. So we can go ahead and cut our 3-inch strips off of that. And handily, my ruler is already facing the right way. So I'll look at my grid on my ruler and see 1, 2, 3 inches, and I'll line that line up with the edge of the fabric. Now you can also, in addition to lining up with the edge of the fabric, you can check for square by seeing how you line up with the grid on the mat. So expose the blade and off we will go. So if you notice, I am laying the ruler on the piece that I'm going to be cutting away. I do that because it stabilizes that piece for me, and it also lets me look at that grid and I can see it in my head, 1, 2, 3, and know that that's where I'm going. So we put the ruler down, line it up again, and I didn't move the fabric. I left it where it was. There's no reason to move it unless the cat walks on it, or a big wind gust or something like that. But we just make sure that everything's lined up again. And then we cut a little bit, move our hand forward, cut some more, and so that finishes that strip for us. And since we are right here, I think that I will go ahead and finish cutting these. Now in the end of this 3-inch strip, we're going to cut 6 for this quilt. And this quilt's going to turn out to be about 40 inches by about 51 in the end, assuming we get our seam allowances correct and everything like that, but we will work on that in another video later. So there's one more, and because as the pieces get smaller, they start to move around. That's another good reason to lay your ruler on the piece that you're actually cutting away so that it doesn't shift around. So this one's gotten a little small, and so now it moves really easily where it didn't before. So line up my 3-inch line. Blade out. Okay, and so now I have all of my blue strips cut. I'll set those aside. Now for the yellow, that's going to be a 1.5-inch strip. This one is already squared up, so we should be safe on that. And we will line it up again. Choose a straight line. Actually, I think I'm going to use this side. Now the reason we cut from the folded edge is because if you're cutting towards the fold, you could get all the way up there and maybe the fabric shifts a little bit, and that gives you a maybe a wrinkle that will then give you a divot in your strip. So we don't want that. So that's why we use why we cut from the fold facing us to the selvage edge. Just wanted to make sure I'm straight here. Well, it looks like maybe I'm not. So once again, we'll square off of one of these on the mat, off the grid on the mat, and then we'll just take our ruler, lay it on top, and then line it up. Use the grids on the mat and the grid on your ruler. Get your blade out. So you can see this was definitely not straight. It's probably a little less than 1/8 of an inch here and nearly 1/4 of an inch here. So it's a good thing we took a look at that and squared it up. Next, these are 1.5-inch strips. So we'll use the 1.5 inch. I'm using the side of the ruler that has the 1/2 inch marking on it. I'll lay it down, straighten it up, match it with the edge of my fabric, and then double check it against the grid on the mat. And do that. Now again, there's no reason to move the fabric. As long as nothing else happened, you don't necessarily need to reposition it. So we just line that line on the ruler up again with the edge of the fabric. Give it a cut and just walk our hands all the way down. And we'll continue to do that. So, of those yellow strips, we need a total of 10. Next, we're going to go to our larger strips. These are 6.5 inch strips, and you'll need a total of 5 of them. So we'll line that fabric up. This one looks to be pretty straight, but let's just go ahead and check it because I thought the yellow was straight. Line that up. Line that up, smooth it out. Looks good. Okay, so we are still on the edge of the ruler that has the 1/2 inch. Now, conveniently for us, in this case, this ruler is 6.5 inches wide, so it'll be really easy. We just square up the ruler, square it with the folded edge down here at the bottom, and square it with that at the top. Get our blade out, walk my hand down. There's one. Now you can see that this fabric here is directional, and what that means is that the mice all face the same direction. So we want to be mindful when we do get to piecing this that we make sure the mice are all facing the same direction. You don't want some upside down mice mixed in the middle, unless maybe you do, and that can be an effective way to make a neat secondary design as well. This piece of fabric was just over a yard long, and we needed, I believe it was 32 total inches, so we'll have a little bit of leftover, but not a lot. So again, just lining up that ruler, line it up with the edge of the fabric. I could see as I was running my finger along here that the fabric was hanging over, so that leads me to realize I need to adjust down at this end again. Just double check. You know, you can always measure again. You can't cut again after it's already cut. So that's all cut out. Let's go ahead and take a preview look of how we're going to put this together. So the actual quilt that I showed you at the beginning, it started out with the 3-inch strip first. followed by a 1.5. And then here comes our focal print right there. Make sure the mice, in this case for today, the mice are going to face left. So on each side of the mice gets another of the narrow strip, and then a 3-inch. Now this probably, if you're new to sewing, you're looking at this thinking, gosh, that doesn't look anything like what you showed me before. It's because a lot of this will get eaten up because it's seam allowance. Okay, so here's our mice. Now we're doing this, and see if we put it on upside down, you would, that could be fun if you did it, alternate every other one. That's not what we're doing on this quilt. We're going to put them all the same direction. So you get the idea that then you get another yellow strip.
So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope that you'll hit like. I hope that you'll subscribe to my channel for more fun videos, and I hope you'll quilt along on this quilt with me. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.